Hey, what's up, people? We're back. I have to do the, excuse me. I have to do of course, do the stream things. We're live. I need to update is just say that, or because we're doing live on YouTube and on Twitch, but I have it update my Twitter profile to say I'm live on Twitch. But either way works. Hey, Tiamba, Anthony, what's up? How are you all doing? Thanks for coming through. uh, always start with you gotta put something funny in sometimes for the Twitch intro, and so I'll try to think of something catchy to put in there. Not maybe not clickbaity, but catchy. At least make you chuckle or something. So sometimes it seems to work sometimes. So we're gonna keep rolling with it. They put it there for a reason for punchlines and things. So yep. Do you know the Pun's Twitter account? I do not know the Pun's Twitter account, but it's pretty. I'm pretty sure it's going to be hilarious because who doesn't like puns? Um, there's a person on the Angular team. They their handle is the punter woman, Jessica, uh, which she's not on Twitter as much anymore, but she's on Mastodon now. But yes, I'm sure she probably already subscribed to that still. Full of gold. Okay, I had to check it out and see what that's about. But yeah, thanks for those who are here and people who are coming through. It's been a good week so far. Um, just been doing the usual stuff, still working on open source, moving along with that, getting insights from open source, which is pretty cool. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. Hey, Chandler, what's up? How are you? Thanks for coming through. I'm good. Glad to see more people dropping in. Some people I see sometimes, and then some new people dropping in sometimes. So that's always pretty cool. And I see Ania just pinged me in a thread on Twitter about something. So let's check it out really quick. Hey, Jason, what's up? How are you? I saw you post earlier that you weren't going to be streaming tonight because you had some family stuff to do, which is good, and I hope you have a good time either way. So, Will, what's up? I see we got we got the people that got the delayed message or something. Will, what's up? Thanks for coming through. My daughter's team is doing really well this year. That's great. Good to hear. Huff. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, but I'm just gonna call you Huff for purposes. But yeah, on the agenda, I'm gonna be looking at. I'm gonna give it some at least some takes on the state of JS front end frameworks, maybe Angular and specifically. Gonna do some stuff with analog and because they did ship some updates there, which I'm excited about. Now, like I said, my message last week on the stream was I built an entire meta framework to write a blog post. Um, so this is kind of on brand for that, where we are putting some of the pieces together to be able to build a blog with analog pretty quickly. So, startup builder, what's up? Did you see? Hey, Kate, Chris, what's up? Glad to see you. Let me stop some of these things that are running, extra things that are running here. Startup Builder. Yes, NGRX is a set of libraries for building reactive Angular applications. Open source for Angular apps. So yeah, that's the quick pitch. Anyway, Andres, what's up? Smart people, hey, you're in here also, so welcome to you. Uh, did you see Angular will support SAS properly now? Yes, I did see that. Angular is supporting SAS in the experimental ES build builder, which is cool. I definitely been following that along with that, just from working on analog, and it's using some of the same things that the ES builder uses. Um, so they're able to parse the component temp like um, inline styles and external styles to be able to use SAS with those now, which is pretty cool. Um, Everybody just throwing in their hopes and dreams into the chat. But yes, Analog also supports SAS for inline SAS also, and it's kind of using, like I said, using some of the same mechanisms, but it's using Vite transforms to make that happen. So we're still like staying within the pipeline, which is pretty cool. Somebody must have asked a question about that, so we're going to jump into Twitter really quickly here. This week in Twitter, this week in Angular Twitter. Yeah, we'll see if that's what we call it. But yes, like I said, any ping me on something. Somebody must ask a question about Angular. Let's see. Tried a few Google searches why I use Angular in 2023, stuff like that. Every single article is garbage. Favorite one is Angular is popular among entrepreneurs. Wow. Angular is popular among entrepreneurs as it helps them capture a Gen Z audience. That's nice. Analog works only works with standalone components. No, that is not the case. And you can use analog with we'll get back to this in a second, but I just kind of wanted to show what I got pinged on right there. So we'll go back to monologue view. There we go. No, analog actually works with or without standalone components. If you want to use file-based routing, yes, that is true. But you can use a traditional, I don't know if that's what we want to call it, traditional application that uses ng modules with analog also, and it'll still work the same. I've actually tried it with a couple of sample projects that are using like the old, I don't want to call it the old way, but the more traditional way of bootstrapping an ng module. But that all still works well too. So I do want to provide at least some avenue for people who necessarily maybe have an existing Angular app and want to try it out with analog. So cool, Tiamba. Why did you go with the name analog? Just curious. Yes, I can give you some backstory there. We're gonna go back to the repo here. Yes, why is this project named analog? So, um, analog, not digital. Yes, this project, the name for the project was inspired, and I actually credited the person in the README about this. But you see the contributors there. ng modules are dead. Yes. So, yes, the original project that that I got this name from was this project by a person who used to work at Google. I believe they used to work at Google. And as you see, this project is long gone by now. But this project was effectively trying to use a different component authoring format, and it looked similar to ng modules, not ng modules, looks similar to JSX there. So ciao, what's up? Man, y'all are live in the chat today, I must say. But yes, analog think his name's Rob. Rob Delaney wrote this project a while long ago, and if let's see if I can find the tweet. Brandon T. Roberts, rent free. It's bad that I still remember these things. Yes, here it is. This was the original tweet for uh, that kind of sparked this whole thing. Uh, the tweet was, "What if I told you this was Angular?" And as you can see, he has some components that look like JSX components. So a counter, use state, use pipe. Those things are familiar through with Angular. And then we have a component down here that's use templates using JSX, but all of this kind of compiled down to Angular. So I have been digging for this project. Actually, this was 4 years ago. I have been digging for this tweet forever, and then I actually found it, and so of course this project didn't really go anywhere, but the name of the project is what stuck out to me. So I was trying to think of a name for a meta framework for Angular, and Analog came to mind. This project came to mind. So I was like, okay, cool. That's a pretty kind of generic name. So I went with Analog JS. So like, okay, that might work. So then of course we go to npm and we say, okay, is analog available on npm? Um, and of course we go to npm. So I go back in time. It's like, oh, published 8 years ago. There's a project called Analog already. Okay, cool. But Analog JS was not taken on npm. So that was the first drop in the bucket here for Analog. So Analog JS was available on npm. So went and grabbed that org. Went and grabbed the org on GitHub, Analog JS. Went and grabbed the org on GitHub. It's like, okay, cool. That was there. So went and looked, domain, went and grabbed the domain, Analog JS was there. I'm like, man, all these things kind of like fell in place. Um, all these things fell in place for Analog to at least have the name, so I wouldn't have to have, you know, I wanted a consistent name and like brand everywhere. So uh, have the, like I said, was able to grab the npm org, the GitHub org, and the domain. And Marco, who's on the NGRX team, uh, pointed me to the Twitter handle. He said, "Hey, the Twitter handle is available. You should grab it before somebody else does." And I was like, yes. I like created a Gmail account and went through that, signed up for the Gmail account, created the Analog account on Twitter. And so I had all the pieces in place for the project itself as far as a name, even if I never did anything with it. Like I had the domains and everything that was there. So that was that is more or less the backstory of how I got the name Analog. And plus it was similar to Angular. So that was kind of like the icing on top. Um, but yes, I wanted something that was similar to that. And of course, as you can see with um, the logo is similar to the Angular logo. Well, it's two parts. Most of the other meta frameworks, for some reason, use triangles. Like if we go to Next.js, what do you see? Triangle. If we go to Nuxt, what do we see? Triangles. So what do we do with Analog? Triangles. But the colors and the kind of theme match the red and the white, the two shades of red and the white with Angular. So everything kind of just works together there. Because you got to be able to like tell a story, right? Be able to tell a story with what you're trying to promote. So being able to tie all those things together was kind of like worked out. Like I said, worked out in the favor for the project. So whether I had ever done anything with it or not, I still had all the branding and stuff there. So that's kind of the backstory of how analog came to be. Just like the original project, it's a crazy idea that may or may not go anywhere, but I'm going to do it either way. So there you go. Sounds like the start of a conspiracy. Triangles everywhere. Hey, I wouldn't doubt that. Let's see. Let me catch up on chat here. Um, yeah, Anthony said, want to register digital, the opposite of analog. Hey, good luck. I was not going to get a Hotmail account, even though I did have one back in the day. Triangles is a strong shape. Analog.js.pizza is available. That would be a nice crossover with open source, I must say. Do you plan on integration analog with some backend framework, Nest.js or other? Uh, it can out of the box. Let's switch back here. Guess we're doing monologue view today. Out of the box, analog comes with a pre-built server, a node server out of the box. Uh, but you can use it with Nest.js. I did an example of using it with Angular Universal, um, like using the existing Angular Universal project and kind of using a custom server there. So it is possible to do that and use that instead of like the Webpack build. So that part is possible too. But uh, you can you can use it with your server rendering stack of choice. I guess it is, whether it be Node or use Express or Nest.js or any of those other tools. It may just take a little bit of setup to do that, but it is possible though, because it is the thing that the server side of analog is built on top of Nitro, which is very flexible in itself. So let's see. Sorry, catching up on the chat, and we'll get into some of the other thing I wanted to cover there. Triangles, the Illuminati is involved. I don't, I don't want. I'm not in the Illuminati. Don't want to be a part of that. Would you explain what does it mean they want to make Angular zoneless? Do you think they tend to go to something in React, use state, use signal? Yes. So Zone.js is the magic. Let's say we'll keep it that way. Zone.js is a library that Angular uses under the hood to patch a bunch of browser APIs, um, or patch the native APIs, most of them browser based. But things like promises, async activity, set timeout, all those things, it patches those things so it can Angular's change detection system can use those to signal to the framework that something needs to be updated. So this is why click handlers and a lot other things in Angular just work, because it has knowledge of all those events that happen. The problem comes in where with Zone.js is that, of course, it handling all that for you, it can become noisy if you have a lot of streams of data, a lot of events coming through. It may give you a bottleneck there as far as performance. And so if you want to kind of squeeze out more performance, then you can choose the zoneless route where you control all the events that happen, or the events that happen don't trigger Zone.js and then don't trigger Angular. So you have a little bit more granular control about how Angular gets updated. So you can squeeze out more performance in those type of scenarios. But there's like a balance to be had there. Do you want the magic of Zone.js to handle all that for you, or do you want the hands-off approach to where you say that I I know what I'm doing here. Uh, I can trigger the change when I'm ready. So um, Angular going zoneless will. There's not like they're just removing Zone.js or making it optional and not giving you anything else. There is some rumblings going around, I will call it, about using signals in Angular to make Zone.js optional. And in using something like signals, we can still notify the framework that something needs to get updated, but not have to rely on patching all these APIs and using Zone.js in that way. So we'll have to see, which all this is still, being discussed of how it's going to work. And of course, the migration path of new apps and things like that, because there are apps out there that are just not going to move off of Zone.js. So, but there's some be opportunity there in the future for new apps to be able to use it. So that's something we'll have to keep looking out for, and see if signals will be the answer of reactivity in Angular. That's first class, first party for everyone to use out of the box. So, and then you can kind of layer your RxJS on top of that and everything else. So we'll have to see how that goes. Emma replied to my tweet. She said it will be good. Okay, cool. Um, Pavan, thanks for coming through. Alex, thanks for coming through also. Ciao. I see you switched over to the other chat there. It felt lonely on YouTube. There's a few people hanging out on YouTube. I don't know what the split is. I'll have to see. Let's look and see what the split is on Restream here. Set up for Zoom. Okay, cool. So we got 9 people on YouTube and 17 people on Twitch. Well, by the way, if you're watching the live stream, go ahead and hit the like button. Got to throw that in there so other people will be able to see the video after it's finished. More excited about Zone.js and local compilation mode. Yes, that is another thing that it will be potentially coming also. Moving the Titanic version of an app, yes, is going to be interesting. Josh, I will say, I'm going to go out on a limb and say there's a project that me and you worked on that will never move off of Zone.js. I'm just going to go ahead and say it because the app is just too big, too many moving parts. It's just going to be that way until they move off of Angular. So, and I think you know what that project is. So, Josh to JVA took all the chat box real estate. Yeah, Josh is he's moving in. He got his elbows out. He's wrestling the chat. So I'll have to make him a mod or something. Make some people some mods. Let some other people muscle in. Remember to like his tweets. He lives for those likes. Hey, you got to get the dopamine hit sometimes, right? How can we learn Angular? Interesting. Interesting question. There are many ways to learn Angular. You can go to the, let's go here. Let's go into pitch mode for people that still want to learn Angular, because it kind of gets into the topic that at least I want to cover in a second here. But how can you learn Angular? Of course, the first step is always to try the Angular docs. I will say that the Angular docs are getting a refresh as far as content goes. The getting started is getting updated, and the getting started is getting updated. So there might be something new here for how you can go through getting started with Angular, because we got standalone components coming in. We got the other new things coming in. So it kind of changes how you go through the flow as a new Angular developer. So that's one way. Another way would be to code through Free Code Camp, Angular. Let's see. This may be Santosh's course here. Angular for Beginners. Free Code Camp is a completely free course. Believe this is the right one I'm looking for. I don't see Santosh's name on here. There we go. Santosh made this free course on Free Code Camp. for Angular for beginners. So if you want to learn about that, that's definitely another link. I'll link all these in the description anyway. Joe Eames has a course on Thinkster. Yes, we're just going to plug all the things. If you go to thinkster.io, they have courses on Angular. 191 lessons. Oh man. Okay. Maybe next time. 13 hours of video. Fundamentals of Angular, free course. Reactive forms of Angular, free course. There we go. Thanks for the link. Is it this one? Fundamentals. There we go. Joe is a fantastic teacher and all really passionate about Angular, teaching Angular and helping people learn it also. So definitely check those out if you're looking for to learn how to use Angular. Good question. Did I answer the Angular yearly survey yet? I did not answer the survey yet. I was thinking about doing that on stream, but I don't know how much longer the survey is going to be out. But I didn't want to. I'll keep my honest opinions anonymous, as they say, for that. So, hey, Toma LaForge, thanks for coming through. Angular challenges on GitHub, another good resource. Drop that link in there and in the chat, and we'll add it to the show notes also. Introduction to Angular on the Google Chrome developers YouTube channel. Oh man, that's a mouthful. YouTube, Google Chrome developers Angular. Okay, cool. There's another one by my good buddy Mark and the Angular team, Introduction Angular. That is another good resource for learning Angular. You can hear the sound, so we're not gonna. I could pipe it through this audio here, but yeah, definitely check this video out. We'll drop that link in the show notes also, and I'll drop it in the chat so I can reference it later. Yes, audio mix live on stream is key. Yeah, I do actually do have the audio piped into the stream, but we're not doing a live reaction video, so that could be something we could do in the future also. Angular challenges on GitHub. Yep, drop that link in there, and we'll show it up here. Let's see, probably can find it here. Forge Angular. There it is. Hey, as you can see, it's probably already in my history. Angular challenges is another good one if you want to level up some of your Angular skills. And he took my advice. I said, if you create a thing, then you got to have a logo. And there's a logo in this one also. So if there's anything, you could definitely try that out. This out there, or even contribute to it if you would like. Zach, Mr. Supership himself, in the chat here. Appreciate you for coming through. If you haven't checked out, man, I'm just plugging all the things. If you haven't checked out Zach's course on supership.io, you should, because you can get 50% off of this course. And it's relatively inexpensive. I will say that. I did buy this course myself. I have not gone through the whole thing yet, but yes, go to supership.io, purchase the course. It's a one-time fee, and then you get the course for forever. So check that out also. Yeah, so we got the A-list stars in the chat today. Everybody's coming through. I like it. I'm gonna have to do some longer streams one day, and then we can just kind of vibe for a while and see how that goes. Excuse me. At work, we have a big enterprise, and we use more imperative approach, subscribing to API calls, etc. And the components not using async pipe. Feel bad as the Twitter sphere recommends going async pipe all the way. Yes. If you're using Angular and you're using RxJS, you most likely want to use the async pipe. Um, just because it helps you avoid subtle and not so subtle bugs in your code. Um, Mainly because, and this kind of leads to where Angular may be going, is today you have to subscribe and unsubscribe mainly for observables to avoid memory leaks. Now, there may be a future to where you don't have to do that with RxJS and Angular, but we aren't there yet. So, to help level up your team and level up your app, um, if and when possible, use the async pipe and pass your observables or even promises to that because it handles both to be able to subscribe and unsubscribe directly from those without you having to do it yourself and avoiding those things. So you don't have to change everything in one day. You can kind of refactor some of that stuff over time, and then it just becomes part of your workflow. So yeah. But yes, we're not going to shame anyone for subscribing because sometimes you got to subscribe. But if you're over subscribing to observables and Angular, you can kind of level up there. So hope that helps. You can clip this and you can clip this and pass it to the team and tell them that I said that you should not be subscribing to things manually to save your own save yourself some heartache. I always recommend slowly introducing patterns in enterprise environments. Yes, so much things going on in enterprise environments that you gotta kind of ease those things in and then kind of let them take take over as they go. Show them how the code can be simplified and it will change their minds. Yes, that's true. Dan, thanks for coming through. Also, Addition Addict, thanks to you too. Where I work, I use best practices in the files I'm working on. So by removing bad practices while delivering my work, balance and act. Yes, that is true. The one of the challenges is or one some of the things you can do there is like if you know there are other people looking at your code, then you kind of have to be a little more cautious about or a little more strict about what you do because that code that you take, somebody else is gonna like copy and paste it somewhere else, and they're gonna take that code, copy and paste it, and then that code is gonna grow somewhere else. So if you have good practices, like try to enforce those good practices out from the beginning, then the other developers who come behind you will kind of see what you're doing. Maybe they'll copy some of that stuff too, and they won't copy the bad parts. They'll copy the good practices, and then maybe you get to a point where you can kind of implement those things up front. You can do these things with like lint rules and things like that, but lint rules can be annoying sometimes, I must say. Yeah, that is true. Others are gonna have to review it, so be mindful of that too when you're doing that sort of thing. Because if they're just copying and pasting it without knowing it, like what's going on, then it might not help as much there. Because then they're just gonna be like, I did it because I saw it done this way. I didn't actually know that I shouldn't have done it in this particular case. So yes. Hey man, y'all are live in the chat today, I must say. Even Restream is telling me I got 100 messages so far, so pretty cool. How far is analog from V1? Good question. Um, a ways away. We're still some of the packages are still in alpha, but we will move those into beta soon. But yes, V1 is a state of mind, as Anthony said. For me, V1 just means that, I mean, for me, people would already be using analog in production before it reaches a V1. So, which I think is usually the case for open source projects. I mean, I've been using open source projects that have never reached a V1 per se, but they were stable enough to be used. So, um, V1 is a nice milestone, nice round milestone to hit. Um, but I would prefer that I can just say that it's stable for you to use, and then we'll fix bugs as they come up, as a point of reference. So what's the best way? And then let's talk about evolutionary steps. Yes. How can we get this working? What's the ideal? What is the ideal step? What is the ideal scenario, and how can we get there if we can? Zone.js never hits V1. Oh yes. Um, yeah, there was a point in time where Zone.js, they were trying to get Zone.js basically built into the browser APIs so that Angular wouldn't be the owner, necessarily be the owner of uh, that library that will be listening to these events and provide this mechanism for Angular to listen to. But that never really got that far. That's a good question. Let's get with. There's a lot of stuff happening, but let's say aren't API calls unsubscribed on their own? How would you force refetching data? Refetch data dot next. Um, yes, the HTTP client will complete the observable for you unless you're doing like a streaming responses. But um, but other places it doesn't work that way. Like the framework does a good job of handling some of this stuff for you as far as the observables it provides, like HTTP and the router, um, but not everywhere. So just still have to be mindful of those things. Do you think analog should feature in the state of JS this year? That is a good question. My answer is no, unless there's some kind of upcoming or there's some kind of stage for upcoming new and upcoming projects. Sure, let's go with that. But that's a good question, and I did want to uh, talk about the state of JS, um, and I did want to I did want to talk about the state of JS because it's happened again. Well, of course, we I don't know if people look forward to State of JS survey every year, but it's been going on for a few years now, and says 5 years of relative stability. Many are beginning to question the status quo. There's of course there's new things that come up every year, and of course this year was no different. And the State of JS kind of takes a look back. They do the survey, they calculate this data every year, and they get a bunch of responses about how different front end frameworks are doing, where these people's backgrounds are from, and a lot of other things that would uh, maybe these sway people who decision makers. Maybe they don't. But the state of JS is a thing, and it does cause a lot of words to be said and a lot of thoughts to happen every year. So uh, as you can see, and you've seen a lot of other videos in this talking about the state of JS, and I did want to look at some of the things here in here. So we'll dive right into the 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 front end frameworks part here because that's kind of where the space that I occupy in these days. And of course, a lot of familiar faces here. We got React, Vue, Angular, um, Svelte is I don't want to say Svelte's new because it's been around for a while. Is Solid has been around for a while also, but and then Quick is real probably one of the newer ones. So um, yeah, this provides some numbers over time as far as how front end frameworks are doing. And of course, if we take a look at Angular, we can see that Angular has definitely dropped over time. So in the survey itself, so if we move that back there, Angular kind of started out when 2016, I guess that's when they started the survey, 68%. And if we take a look at where React was in 2016, it was at 92%. So, uh, and these things are retention, interest, usage, things like that. So, as you can see, Angular has definitely declined over the years in retention from developers. And that just means that they've used Angular, they would or would not use it again. And I think there's a few factors that, a few things that factor into this. Of course, if you used Angular a few years ago and you didn't like the experience, and if somebody brought Angular to you again today, and that's your only memory, it's like, no, no thanks. Especially if you were around for pre standalone components, pre new APIs, pre Angular kind of evolving over time. So, and even the whole thing of mixing Angular JS into this mix, I don't know if they still would lump those Angular and Angular JS together. Angular JS being the old deprecated framework, um, the precursor to Angular, and then Angular being the modern one. So there was a point in time to where these were getting mixed up pretty regularly. So maybe some of that has been cleaned up here, but you can look and see through the different ways here how Angular's kind of dropped over time. Now, someone asked me if I thought that, or they were saying they were kind of hesitant about where Angular is, and I was saying that Angular is not going to go away, just because unless Google comes out and sunsets it. Uh, yeah, so a lot of the experience that people have was pre-Ivy, um, pre, and a lot of things basically got Ivied in that way. So looking at this through the lens of that, I could see how some people would not prefer Angular if they used it back then. But some people just aren't going to prefer Angular anyway. So this is not necessarily for those people. Um, but if you've used it and you had a decent experience with it and you kind of stuck with the framework as I have over this time, then you'll kind of get how these numbers are where they are. Now, my response to that was that I think that Angular will still move on just because, not because it'll be the most popular, but because Angular is still evolving. Like they're still making changes to the framework, improving it for the people that are using the framework. And along that way, you'll get some people that'll switch over that are maybe tired of React, that haven't moved to something like Solid or Svelte yet. But Angular is still like that familiar thing there. So I think that Angular will still have of course, a place in the front end framework ecosystem, even if it is a smaller audience. Like the audience right now is more tailored towards enterprise and large projects like that. And these other front end frameworks have been, people are using these in more startup like environments and things like that. So Angular is trying to be like the framework that kind of grows with you. So we'll see if that's the case. And you can see like awareness. Of course, just about everyone knows what Angular is as far as voting goes, but all the other like key metrics are shows Angular in decline. Um, but that's not to say that Angular is like in a free fall, because it has been some time where Angular has moved forward, or at least ticked back up some in usage or in these other areas. So that at least shows that they are improving the framework for the people who use it today and the people that are using it in the future. Because if they stop supporting it, then of course they're going to just drop all the way down to the bottom, because nobody wants to use something that isn't being maintained anymore. And that's definitely not the case with Angular. So uh, it is one of those things that people like to dunk on and everything. So we'll just, we'll stick to just shipping things, and Angular still move along as it goes. So, and then of course these other tools, some of these other things I'm actually interested in, like Solid and things like that. So I may end up doing something like that, doing something along a video along those lines too. But Angular's still here today. It'll be here tomorrow, and we'll see what the rest of the future holds there. I remember early Angular was chaotic. I think things actually stabilized around V12. Yes, Angular version 3 was a mess. No, Angular version 3 never happened. A lot of third-party libs are no longer maintained, and there isn't really a lot of them compared to React. Been doing React for a few years professionally, but I miss Angular sometime. Once you learn Angular, it's hard to forget it. Hey, that is true. I'm doing some React these days also, and they are definitely different in that way. And how you kind of think about how you build with them. So we'll see. Please don't provoke Google. They would do that at a moment's notice. Yes, that is true. Um, Google is known for sending things to the graveyard. So we'll see if Angular, that is a good thing. Angular has managed to survive this long, even with all the other things that have been killed by Google. So I think that says something to the about the framework itself. As a newbie, I gave myself 3 months with React and 3 months with Angular. Angular's logic and system was a no-brainer. Interesting. Yeah, I guess it depends on how you want to build things. If Angular kind of fits your mental model, then it makes it easier to consume or easier to like look over the things that it doesn't do. Like JSX for some reason is like the thing I can point to like just about everybody else is doing JSX except for Angular. Uh, and Angular is on an island in that way, um, but yes, Angular's future is bright. I would agree because of the things on the roadmap. And should have talked about some of those things also, but maybe we'll save that for another one. Yes, the roadmap is solid, and the Angular roadmap is solid and definitely bright. So we'd like to see more of that. Satisfaction for Angular grows because people who hate it finally could switch over from it. Interesting take. Um, I don't know. They will still have to take the survey. So, well, there are people that will still take the survey. So they could switch away from it and not recommend it, but then that will still cause the satisfaction to go down. So, um, but like I said, I believe the Angular team well, there was an Angular developer survey that also recently came out. I don't know if it's still active or not. Let's see. Angular. Yes, there's still a survey here. If you haven't taken it, definitely check that out and fill out the survey. If you use Angular and you still want to give the team some feedback, definitely check out that survey and fill that out too. But I'm probably preaching to the choir here in the chat, at least the Angular people anyway. Google has 3,000 plus internal apps that use, so they have a lot of skin in the game. Yeah, that's true. But Angular also has another web framework internally too. So it's not as the developer experience for that framework isn't as nice as Angular's, but it's not. It is a more geared towards scale and high performance. So, and Mishko's talked about this in his when he's talked about Angular also about the framework internally at Google called Wiz. That a lot of the like Google search and other things are built with. So, but Angular is definitely still used inside of Google, and I know this because NGRX is still being used inside of Google. And Alex Okrushko was our main point of contact inside of Google when he was there, and we still have conversations with people who are using it internally there. So we know it's still being used. On experience over time graph, Angular have lots of not interested people. And what I can see right now is Angular team changes the framework to make it interesting for the audience. Maybe so. I don't like, I guess to me, like either you like Angular or you don't. Um, like fundamentally, like either you like JSX and you don't like the way that Angular works, or you think Angular is too like heavy-handed with what it prescribes. So you don't tend to use things like that. So then the thing always used to be, hey, Angular is a framework, React is a library, blah blah blah, and then things like Next came along, and other meta frameworks built on top of React that kind of offer that same experience that Angular has. So I thought it was very interesting to look at those, how like that conversation has evolved over time with regards to Angular, the framework, and React, the framework. Because at this point, they're giving you client and server primitives. So I would call it to that. I would say it's closer to that now. Regarding JSX, Svelte doesn't use it. I think it's considered to have a better DX. Yeah, that's true. They have their own special syntax for Svelte. It kind of, well, it doesn't look necessarily that much like JSX. Svelte, is it svelte.dev? There we go. I know my buddy Tim, the Shriver, is a big fan of Svelte also, and I've looked at it too, but I haven't gotten um, really deep into it yet. But I do look at, of course, in building analog, I look at other meta frameworks and see what they're doing, like Svelte Kit, and I have looked at some of the things of how Svelte kind of works and things like that. So to at least for inspiration and things like that, because Svelte stores was a thing, or is a thing in Svelte, um, that I was hoping would get adopted by Angular at some point, as far as being able to use observables directly and just know how to handle them in the template without the async pipe. So if you're not familiar, Svelte has these things called stores, or Svelte has like a reactive primitives itself, to where you can tag things with a $sign, um, to mark them as reactive, to say that these things will update uh, when these props change or these other things change. So Svelte has, like I said, Svelte has these reactive primitives so that these things will update when the prop changes, and all that kind of is kind of magic. Um, so, and that was, like I said, along with the Svelte stores, you can have a store that an observable, you can use observables with Svelte and it will just handle them also, which I thought was pretty nice. Vue is the closest to Angular. Yes, I would say if we are looking at like HTML syntax and uh, how it feels, I would definitely say Vue is the closest to Angular as far as the template syntax goes, with the bindings, interpolation, those things. Um, yeah, because Evan, you used to be in the Angular community, Angular JS community, I should say. So maybe he took some of those things with from Angular JS and took them to Vue, and it started out just looking like Angular JS if Angular JS had went 2.0, but then they've gone a whole different direction with the reactivity and everything else. So you can see with the V4, looks familiar to NG4, those sort of things. Event handling, I think, is different. They have like the @click instead of the parentheses as far as that goes. So yeah, there's that. Angular copy Svelte, it would be perfect for me. The robustness and consistency of Angular, Svelte clean syntax. Yeah, Vue also has DI. They do. That is true. They have the provide and inject. And when I saw this, I was like, this looks oddly familiar. That Vue has this where you can use the inject to get things from the or that you provide. Of course, the mechanism how it works is different than how Angular's is, but it's nice that it has that. I'm not doing ads. I'm just got to take a sip. My framework shouldn't be doing magic. I'm the one that's supposed to be doing the magic. That's right, Josh. You are the Angular magician after all. Let's see. I think I'm caught up on chat. And the most important procrastination question, yes, the the VS Code theme is Night Owl. Night Owl. Whoops. Night Owl by Sarah Drasner. If you ever want a good dark theme, I'm not a person that changes themes often, so I kind of pick one and stick to it. I was just using my own. I was just using like the vanilla one that came with VS Code, which is probably a programmer's uh no. But Sarah Drasner, Night Owl, downloaded a bunch of times. Definitely check that one out if you're looking for a nice clean theme. And I stuck use it and stuck with it, so it works for me. Any advice on starting your own meta framework? Wow, that's a big question. um, it depends on what you want to do, I guess. Uh, I started out with like a list of I started out with a list of things that I wanted my meta framework to have. And those things have kind of remained true to what I wanted it to be. Um, I wanted to use Vite because I feel like Vite is like the next tool of choice that's currently out there. And it has a wide ecosystem. So that was one thing I didn't want to have was wide ecosystem support. Um, but I mean, past that, it depends on what you want to do. Like file-based routing was on my list. API routes was on my list. Uh, SSR and SSG seems to be like or server side rendering and static site generation seems to be a table stakes, as they would say. Like these are things that your meta framework must do at a minimum, but some of the other things could be optional. Like I, I kind of think that I could have went without the API routes and just leave that up to the developers to use for how they want to implement those. But it's nice to have. You don't have to use them, but they're there. So I haven't seen anybody making any like requests for features on those as much as some of the other things. Like when we added Markdown, using Markdown as routes to analog, that seems to be the one that's at least gotten the most traction recently. Just because you can build static sites with it, with the Markdown as route, makes that part easier. So if you want to build a static site with Angular and analog, that's pretty straightforward there. Have I used chain sets before? Child, no, I have not used chain sets. I've seen it around a lot. This is like watch Brandon Google things session time, but that's okay. I have not used chain sets. I am still looking at, always track back to analog. I have an open issue here for automating publishing of packages because I'm doing things manually at the moment. And if I could have a way for it to detect the chat packages that changed, bump those versions, and then have those in a point ready point that I could release them. If I could just push up a tag or something like that and it do release those, and I would definitely look into doing that. Playwright integration is also on the list. Yes, there is an open issue. Just going through all my Playwright history here. Let's see. There's an open issue somewhere for Angular. I think component test. Maybe this is the one. Because somebody actually pinged me on this one. And I put together a repo that shows Angular and Playwright component tests working together. But it shows that it works. I'll drop this in the chat also. It shows that it works, but it definitely need some more work for it to be like a shippable thing. So I don't know if we could. I mean, we could put this in analog, but if they would put this in um, the Microsoft Playwright repo and use the analog plugin or the Veet plugin, that would be even better. I would think that analog is open source. Well, I have news for you, friend. Analog is open source. It's completely open source. There's a link to the repo. Feel free to contribute if you like. Maybe some good first issues. I don't know if I have any labeled at the moment. But yeah, I think I haven't. It's been a minute since I went through and labeled the good first issues. But um, yeah, if you definitely want to check out the project, join the Discord and we can talk about it more there. I'll drop a link to the Discord in the chat too. But things a project always needs: docs, people to try it, file bugs, all those things help a project get more stable. And that's what I would like to see is like the core of it is there, the Veet plugin is there. We just want to be more stable for a usage. And I do have some people that are using it already. And then things that we've been able to go back and forth on and fix things with. So definitely hop in the Discord, check it out, file some issues. Yeah, because it doesn't seem like at least the work that I've done on it has gone noticed by others in the space. So that was pretty cool to see. But I will have to check out chain sets. I have not checked that out. Cool. So we talked about the state of JS. Yeah, I can talk about some analog stuff here also. One thing that a thing that we did add recently was, like I said, markdown as routes is, well, this is another thing. I need to revamp the docs on analog because it just looks like a bunch of packages now, and the content package isn't even up here yet. But what I want to do is add a getting started, and it could be just like you build a blog with analog. It has a nice ring to it. I keep saying it over and over, but take you through the steps of how to build a blog, and that way you can have a guide that can show you what it does, like the file-based routing shows you how to do that, show you how to use markdown as routes, show you how you can still use regular Angular routes if you have a mix of content there, and still be able to use it just as you would any other Angular app there. So that's one of the things that I have an open issue on for docs is to update there. So if you have some experience with Docusaurus and you want to contribute, definitely check that out. Have you tried running analog zoneless? I have not, but I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work. Because you can use it with a zone full or zoneless application. Let's see, I had a GitHub repo around here somewhere. Let's see. Repositories. This is my Angular analog SSR example. But I'm just showing this mainly to show that this one is a app that uses an traditional ng module based app. So you could make this zoneless and use it also. The only part that requires standalone components is the routing. So if you want to bring your existing routing setup with just the vanilla Angular router, you can do that too, like it shows in this app here. So it's not like you don't have to like switch over everything to file-based routing and all that to use analog. So drop that link in the chat. Definitely check that one out if you're looking for an example of SSR with even a well this particular one was using Fastify with analog and Angular, which worked also. But yeah, let me check the Twitch thing here because I haven't checked follows and things, so I'm probably slacking on that. Oh, I see we got some some familiars. Polek, thanks for the follow. Um, Startup Builder, Pavan, Preston, thanks for the follow. Toma, Nukian, thanks for the follow. JMW5598, thanks for the follow. Just catching up on those. So those people are either lurking or just already came through. Yes, where was I? Yes, documentation as I mentioned before. Um, Looking to update it with a real getting started. Like this just shows you how to get an application off the ground or spin up a new app. But I want to have it be like a quick tutorial of how you can use that. So um, yeah, Dominic, thanks for coming through. I didn't mention that earlier, but let's check and see what we got messages here. Okay, cool. Um, yeah, so what I did want to show with where I was going with that was on the last stream I did show a link with I did building a blog with analog where I was trying to start from scratch and show you how I could do that. So we have added a few extra things since last time. So last thing, I'll spin this up. ng serve, if you're hesitant about switching, but you still want that nice Angular feel, it works with ng serve. So there's that. But what I showed last time was just a simple blog. It's probably real reloading here. My first post, my second post, and a link to there. So this is just a few links and some content in these couple of folders here. Now I'm manually linking to these blog posts here. And I had a route for the blog and one for just a couple of links here. We did release a newer version that handles some of this stuff for you. So as far as giving you a list of the things in the content folder and making it so you can build a blog and have the content that you stored there a little easier. So I'm going to update to, I'm going to remove that and reinstall latest packages. And we'll see. We'll let that install. Installing all the latest packages of analog. And let's make sure it's got the right version that I'm looking for. 0.1.3 and that's 23 for 5. Okay. And let's check here just to make sure, because it just did a release try this morning. Yeah, 0.1.3 for 5. Oh, that looks good. So in here, I have an inject content. I don't know what we call these in Angular with the inject content function. It's not a hook per se, but I also had a place to where, like, if I want to list the blog posts, I'm just doing this manually now. But now we have this, and here I have welcome to my blog. So what I want to do here is I'm going to copy this one, and I'm going to rename this to index.ts, and we'll name this one blog home, and bring in ng4 so I can iterate over a list. Hookjector. That's a pretty good one. I like it. Um, so I don't need a router outlet. Do need router link and that one. So this will just be the page that you go to when you're on /blog. So before, or now I want to change this to, we can name this simple to something like posts. And we'll have an unordered list. It was just kind of, okay, we're just going to let this do it for me. Blog post slug. Okay. It's not doing quite what I wanted to there. So the machines haven't won just yet. So UL, and I also want to, I'm going to create an interface here for a post. And we'll say this post has a title, string, and a slug of string. So we can see in here, in my content folder, I have a couple of posts here. I don't have any front matter in these posts, so I'll add that for here. I got a title, my first post, and a slug, which will just match the file name here. So we'll take that one and we'll add one for my second post. And we'll take the slug for that one also. So we'll save those two. And so we have our posts here, and those are in our content folder. But what I want to do is get a list of those things. And with the latest version, we have another hook here. So I'll call this post, and we'll say this inject content files. So inject content files will give me a list of the files that were read out of this folder with their contents and the front matter that is along with them. So I want to inject content files, and I'll say that their attributes have the type of post. So here I will add a router link, and we'll say that this is this will link to /blog. I have route /blog and then the slug. So we'll link to post. Let's fix that. So we have let post of posts, and then we'll have our post, and I believe this is attributes. Attributes dot slug. If I remember correctly, in post dot attributes dot title. So we have our link here, and then we can save that. So if I did that, we'll start up our ng serve and go back to my app here. And unless I broke something, oh, that's nice. front matter is not resolved. Okay, so I did add a new package here also that I didn't install. So we're going to add front matter, and we'll get that version. Clear that nice big error there, and we'll run yarn to get the front matter package. And let's try that again. I believe I have the other ones. For the content package, it has front matter, marked, Prism.js, and Prism.js. So I think those are the ones that it needs. Let's see if we get a reload here. Okay, now we have, okay, cool. So we have our menu bar here for the app component and my container here. So I can remove these from here. And now I have posts, and let's go back to here, and we'll name this one router link. We'll go to slash home slash home and slash about. And then we'll wrap this in a div. We're jumping all over the place. So wrap that in a div just so it puts it on the next line. So we have home and about, and I have my posts. I could use some extra lines here. Let's wrap this one in an H2. So post, my first post and my second post. So now you have at least have those two pieces to be able to list your content and render that content without having to wire a whole lot of things up manually. And you can still use the markdown based routes for the other parts. So all that is nice and well working together now in the latest version of analog. So if you're a current user, you can update to the latest packages, or if you're new, then you can run the npm command to create a new project, and all that will be ready to go out of the box. And this is what I'm kind of getting to with the new getting started that's going to happen in the docs. And I'm looking at making this a template starter also. So if you go create analog today, it'll generate a vanilla Angular V15 app, and then we'll have a blog starter there that'll give you some posts and give you a list of posts just out of the box. Something super simple. Not too many styles or things like that, but just something you can customize out of the box to get up and running pretty quickly. So, and I also did deprecate the route meta there. So we're just using a type there now instead of the function. Route. Yep, so there's that. Is analog comparable to Nest.js? No, analog is more comparable to Next.js and SvelteKit and Nuxt. So Nest.js, I can open this up. Nest.js.com is a Node.js framework that builds on top of Express and Fastify. And analog is a meta framework on top of Angular. So you could use Nest.js as like a server for an analog project if you wanted to, for like doing server side rendering. So it's a tool you can use with Nest.js. It doesn't replace it. It does have API routes. So if you wanted something super simple API, then you could get those out of the box with analog. But if you wanted something a lot more robust and a lot more full featured, then Nest.js is definitely a good choice there. I'm using Nest.js on the project that I'm working on now, and I like it. Some of the things in it I could switch, of course. Um, all the decorators being one thing, but overall, I really like how it works and how it makes things easier there. So yes, definitely want to give a quick shout out to the contributors to Analog. Robin, I've been talking to this person recently who contributed some of the features for the content files that I just showed there, and some other stuff too. Uh, Definitely got his first few open source contributions in Analog, which is pretty cool. So if you definitely want to get involved, definitely check out the project. And like I said, I'll look at the open issues and see what we can mark as good first issues. But of course, if you see typos or things in the docs or things that are unclear, definitely check those out too. Let's see, Antoine Codes. Thanks for the follow. I may have missed. They may have came in and went popped through. So thanks for that. So yeah, that is the let's say I went like I said, went through state of JS. We went through like the not the entire Angular ecosystem, but um, a good bit of the things going on there. And but if you, of course, Chad, if you see something that you'd like to chat or talk about in the future, feel free to hit me up on Twitter or anywhere else for that matter to get that conversation going. Oh, one more, yes, I almost forgot. If I can remember the um, YouTube here, I am going to be on a live stream tomorrow on with Nick Taylor from Netlify. So there's a link to the channel there. I will go to it here also. This is his live stream. So I'll be on the live stream tomorrow, and we will talk about Angular, some things Angular, analog, and open source also. So definitely check that out. It'll be on Twitch tomorrow, so you can follow his profile there and find me on those platforms. So yeah, definitely check that out. And we'll hopefully I'll see you all around tomorrow. It'll be at tomorrow at 12 p.m. Central Time. So definitely check that out too. So yeah, that's probably a good place to wrap up this one. Um, yeah, we'll be back next week, same time, same place. I guess we'll go to the switch over to here. Yeah, thanks for coming through, everyone. Thanks for the people who were chatting it up earlier. Definitely appreciated that. And yeah, we'll be back same time. Well, maybe do one of these as like a hacking session or something like that. So work on some stuff on stream. And hey, Addition Addict, I appreciate that. Uh, thank you all for coming through, and I will see you all in the next one.